Hey everyone, welcome to Chasing the Kraken. So as you can see, the colors of fall have come upon us, and we're waiting for the ice. So a little bit brisk today in southern Alberta. So I am going to do something a little bit different. In preparation for ice fishing, I want to go through some of my gear and give you a bit of a heads up. So I'll give you the quick pan. This is some of the equipment that I'll be bringing in. Some of it I've bought, some of it I've made, and I'll be sharing all of it with you.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ding the notification bell to be notified of new videos.
So first of all, this is your standard auger. Now, nothing really too fancy about it. The only thing I wanted to highlight is that I've seen a lot of people with power augers. I've seen a lot of people with gas-powered augers. I started off with a hand auger, which wasn't great, but I ended up buying this drill adapter, which was really excellent. Now, when I was out fishing last year, we were looking at about 36 inches of ice, and this auger with my electric drill, 18-volt drill, burned through the ice in, under a minute each hole. Like, it was actually really quick. The only thing you have to be a little bit careful of is that, as I found out the hard way, is that you want to put a little bit of oil on the chuck of your, or I guess collet or whatever it is, but on your cordless drill at the head, because when you break through the ice, you usually get a bit of a water splash. So you want to be careful you don't rust up your drill. But yeah, it's been really excellent. So and what I've also discovered, I may come to regret it, but I got the 6-inch blade. I know some people, get an 8 or a 10. The fish that I'm usually after, and from my experience, they'll fit through a 6-inch hole. So I end up going with a 6-inch. I can always upgrade to an 8-inch later.
That's what she said.
All right, I want to introduce you to the Green Hornet. This is a fishing rod that is inspired by the Grumpy Old Men movies. This one particularly belonged to Walter Matthau.
Stay there. Stay there, you little bastard.
And ironically, last year I didn't catch anything on the Green Hornet. I did get a couple of nibbles, but I didn't get out enough to really give it its full use. And as you can see, there's no reel on it. You basically just hand wind it from the top. I may replace that with some tip-up line, just so if I'm hand winding it, I'm not ripping up my fingers. It's got a little bell. And this whole thing is actually 3D printed. So I 3D printed, basically took a picture off the internet, converted that picture into a PNG file, took that file and converted it into an STL, and then was able to print it on my 3D printer. So this is PETG, which is a nice flexible, fairly strong and resistant plastic. And my brother-in-law, he had actually broken the tip of his rod off, so I harvested that and it's just hot glued into place. So that is a fun little project that I plan to get out, and let's see if the Green Hornet can catch him this year. Okay, so this is literally probably the cheapest fishing rod you can get at Cabela's. I did replace the reel, not by much though. This is a Zebco reel, so not a huge step up. I do have ice line on it, and yeah, so we're gonna give that a try. I don't really think I need much more. As you can see, I had to tape up the handle just because it wasn't really, these little rings would slip back and forth, so I just locked her in. But what I really wanted to show you is that I actually designed this myself. This is my jaw jacker, hook setter, whatever you want to call it. So the way it works is the rod goes in here. Now the lure goes down into the ice, but when you do that, all you do, let me show you here in a second. It just has a small, this is a piece of piano wire that I use for my remote control airplanes. And the whole idea is that when the fish comes, if they pull it just past there, the piano wire little trigger drops and it allows you to set the hook. So I've actually caught a couple of fish on this last year. Works really well. You don't need a ton of tension. Good thing about piano wire is you can actually put these little Z bends in it if you wanted to shorten it, or you could always just cut it and make a different hook on it. But just a piece of wood. Obviously the rod goes in there, and then these pieces were designed and 3D printed by myself, and I even incorporated some little grips to keep it in the snow. That's not going to dig into the ice, mind you, but it'll do a good job on that. So that's kind of a cool little invention that I worked on. I don't think I really got the concept from anyone. I think that was purely my invention. So it's probably similar to what's out there. All right, so this is the Hi-Tech Predator Pro thermal tip-up. Pretty basic system. I'd never used a tip-up. I hadn't used one last year, so I bought this one just for this year. The whole idea is that you pull this out. Set up your flag, and then on the inside there is a little container there for whatever lures you have. This piece, let me roll that out for you. This piece pivots up, and then what it does is it drops down this spool below. So the spool basically, this is tip-up line, which is a little bit, I wouldn't say any stronger than fishing line, but it's definitely a little bit thicker, so it's a little bit easier on your hands if you're hand loading a fish. So the line comes out and comes down through this little guide and into the ice. Now to set it, all you do is you lower the flag, make sure this part is straight up. You can even bend it a little bit further back, and then once the fish grabs the line and pulls, it pulls this piece and pivot and rotates it, and then your flag pops up. So pretty basic system actually. The whole idea why it's called a thermal is it has this styrofoam base. So when you put it over the hole, ideally it'll keep the hole from freezing over while your line's in there. So yeah, this was at, I think I got this from Bass Pro Shops, but available at Cabela's obviously as well. So the Hi-Tech Predator Pro. Now that inspired me to create this monstrosity. All right, so this is my homemade tip-up. This is kind of a conglomeration of a bunch of different elements. I had this bait caster from a couple seasons ago. It was starting to get a little bit noisy and a little bit worn out, so I just incorporated it here. It's just basically zip tied onto this board. These are little stop blocks to prevent the pivot from going too far. It's got a base, and then basically even the hinge system here is 3D printed as well. Also, there's a bit of a guide at the front, and there's also a bit of a gap so you can pull your line out. So the whole idea here, let's see if I can get it to work here, is you set it up at the hole. So the hole would be down here, and then you run your line through and then down into the water. And essentially this has a bit of a resistance. Now there are some holes here where I could put a big Allen key or a drill bit or something to add a little extra weight if I wanted to. So it is customizable as far as resistance. But once the fish pulls, and he can give it a little tug, once it gets past that point, the back end shoots up, and there's your flag. So this is just some marking tape. So yeah, that's my creation as well. I think I stole the idea from somebody on YouTube. If I recall, I'll give them a shout out here and put the credit in a link above. But the actual, implementation of the design in this case is mine, and yeah, a lot of 3D printing. All right, so that's all of the main equipment except for this bad boy. So last year, I'll tell you my story about my tent. Is I saw an ad for a fishing tent. It was like a 2-man tent, which is really like a man and his dog is all it will ever fit. And I went out to go look at it. He said one of the poles was broken. It was on for like 75 bucks or 50 bucks. And when I got there, he said, yeah, there's another pole broken, so you can have it for free. So I used that little tent for the entire season. And right at the very end, I got this on an Amazon warehouse deal. So I'm looking forward to getting this out, but I'll get it set up here in a second and show you what that's all about. Give you a tour. All right, so I'll just show you everything that's in the bag. So this is a Frabill HQ 200, which is supposedly a 2 to 3 man tent. I did set it up last year at the very end, so it's going to be a lot roomier than what I had. Comes obviously with these ice screws. Now, there is an adapter that you can find. Believe me, if I could 3D print something that would do it, I would probably do that, but I'll probably have to spring to buy the drill adapter to help screw these in, because I did try them in my old tent and they are a pain to hand screw it through the ice, especially when it's super cold out. So that plus a bunch of these guide wires, and then there's 4 plastic windows that Velcro on, and then the tent itself. So let me get this on the tripod and I'll show you how it gets set up. All right, let's get this set up. So the first thing you're going to note, if you've watched any YouTube, anything about ice fishing, any of these tents, there's like 3 different people. If you ask 5 different people how to set them up, you'll get 5 different ways. So what I'm going to do, so these are actually the feet or the bottom. Hey guys. So you stand it up, and basically there's going to be some internal pieces. These are kind of like the elbows, and then the bottoms. Now I have seen some videos where they say to set up the top first. I've always been told that you set up the sides first. So I think either way will work, but we're going to set up the side first. So what I'm going to do is just come over to you. Now one little tip about the ice is that if it's a really windy day, good girl Shiloh, if it's a really windy day, you want to set up the side that faces into the wind first, and you want to stake that down, have your guy wires and your tie downs and all that, have that ready to go, because the last thing you want is to pop this thing out and have it take off across the ice. That's definitely happened to a few people, so you want to be careful of that. So I'm definitely not a pro when it comes to this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, there's a little handle here, so I'm going to grab this and pull out the side, and then I come down to the next portion, pull all this out, grab this section. All right, this might end up being a comedy video. Okay, grab this and pull, and that pops, and then we're just going to work our way around. Okay, almost there. Okay, so that is the basics. So you've got 4 sides. You can set it up now. You can see over here, this is the side with the door. Looks like this piece needs to pop out. There we go. All right, so once you have all your 4 sides, now it does have this skirt that you can pull out, and if you were going to if you really wanted to block out the snow and the ice, what you would do is you would pile snow all the way around the skirt. And then if you look up top, we still have to pop the middle out, so let's give that a whirl. So what I'm going to do, open her up, and I'll set you up here so hopefully you can see. And yeah, so once you're inside, it's just a matter of popping the top. And there you go. So I'll get a little bit of light in here. I'll give you a tour around the inside. But so you want to have it staked down. You want to put out your little floor liners there. So as you can see, there's a fair bit of room in here. So my plan is I'm going to get some of that play matting that you can buy for kids. It comes in different colors. You can get it at Walmart, wherever. I think you can even get it at IKEA. But basically, to do a layout on the floor, it's a nice square footprint, so easy to set that up, not too bad. But let's get you in here and I'll show you around. All right, so we are in the tent itself. See, it's got a nice dark color to it. You're not going to get too much light. You might get a little bit through, you can see that you're through a bit of the stitching or whatever. But considering this was a used Amazon return, I think it ended up being in pretty good shape. So you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 windows. You've got 2 doors, so a back door and a front. So depending on how you've got it set up, if there's 2 of you in here and someone has to go out to do something or to check on a tip up, you can go out either door. Okay, So here's a little vent hole if you want some ventilation, especially if you're running a heater. Now I did get a Mr. Buddy heater this year. I had one of the little Buddy ones, but I finally got the big Buddy, or the normal one. So I'm looking forward to that. You have a little pouch for whatever you want to throw in there. Sorry if I'm doing the shaky cam, but little pouch that you can do stuff in there. And there's another one on the far side. Now let me just show you how these windows work. So basically you can keep them closed if you want to be totally black in here, if you don't want people peeking in. But if you do want a little bit of light, or if you have a tip up that you want to keep an eye on, what you can do is drop that down. I believe you can, yep, you can drop that all the way down, and there's Velcro attachments there on the wall. And then all you do is you come in with your other window. All right, so you can basically pop your new window in, and then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can still close this. There's still tabs. So if you do want the ability to open and close it without letting a lot of wind and stuff in, but still be able to see, you can do that. So there really isn't much more to show. Now, what I'll try and do, so let's say, for example, I am at, let's keep a little bit of light here. So this is, I think all four sides are basically the same distance. I think it's 71 inches or something like that. Now what I'm going to do is lay down and see just how comfortable I could be. Now what is interesting is that from this hub all the way across to that hub is actually a lot more. I'm going to say that that's a hub to hub. I should go get a tape measure. I'll try and get a tape measure of that before I take this down. Okay, so as promised, so hub to hub is actually 91 inches. So that is quite a bit of space in between there, and definitely lots of room. All right, guys, so oh, let me get you a height actually while we're here. So from the floor up to the ceiling, we are looking at 79 and a half inches of clearance. So if you're taller than that, you might need a bigger tent. But aside from that, lots of room in here. I'm going to say that this is definitely room for 2 fishermen quite comfortably. You could have, you know, a couple of holes, even like a third hole if you really wanted to. Chair wise, you probably get, you know, so once again, let's just measure this out while we're here. So from edge to edge, you're looking right at, yeah, 72. It bows out a little bit, so 72 inches. So 6 feet of clearance side. So, you know, that's a little tight for 3 chairs. So I'm going to say that this is a 2-man tent with any type of gear. Basically, if you can see, there's my feet, and here I am relaxing. I still have I'm 5'11", and I still have an extra inch there. So if you did want to spend the night in this, now it's not insulated or anything like that, but if you did want to spend the night, you could run your heater with a little bit of venting, and there'd be enough room to set up a cot in here, you know, your standard Cabela's cot, to keep you out of the off the floor. As all of you, may know, or probably should know, is that, cold air sinks, so you want to get off the ground as much as you can to be comfortable. So I'm going to have a couple of chairs in here. Like I said, I'm going to have that flooring sort of barrier, and yeah, so this is going to be definitely an upgrade through it. So I'll just give you the old, really cheesy 360 pan, and then back to Mr. Kraken himself. All right, guys, so if you have any questions, if you want to know anything more about this setup, once again, this is the HQ 200, and it's an excellent tent. It's actually really well done. I will do my best not to break it and not to lose it in a windstorm. I'll get you a little aerial view while the sun's still shining, but that's the doorway over there, and then obviously the windows. So decent sized tent. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And then of course my conglomeration of hobbled together equipment. So yeah, we'll see how we do this year. This will be our first serious year fishing, first year of ice fishing on the channel. So we're looking forward to that. All right, guys, thanks.